So our task here is to add comments to our code that outlines the general control flow. And this game is going to be using the sprite class. So the control flow is going to be a little bit different than what we have when we were building Pong. Now what we need to do is initialize our variables up at the top of main, create our game objects, same as what we did in Pong. This time we're going to create our groups, and then we're going to update our groups in the game loop, and we're going to blit our groups in the game loop. So this portion here is different from what we had in Pong, right? So we want to add some comments. What you want to do is create a new project, call it density. We'll make a new file, call it density2. What you can do is copy and paste your Pong in here, and then just kind of delete everything that you don't need. And we're going to use like the basic skeleton of Pong to build this, right? So we're going to import all of our modules up at the top. This line of code, if you're not familiar, it centers the window in the middle of your monitor, right? And then we have our constants here, all the different colors. You want to run pygame init. I've seen pygame init which initiates pygame and lets you use the different modules like display, set caption, and set mode, which creates the screen. So this is like absolutely critical that you do this, right? I've seen it done out there, and I've also seen it done right here inside of the if. I've seen it done right here in the top of main, but I'm gonna do mine right out there. Okay, so yeah, and then what we run main, we come up to main, we have this tuple called size, right, which uses height and width, which we can use in our program if we want. And when we create our screen, we set it to the tuple size here, and then this here allows the screen to contain transparent images, which will be useful when we begin to import our graphical representations of the different sprite objects. So just go ahead and add that, and then create our clock object, play variables true while play, and then we're gonna red button click, fill the screen with black, and flip the black on the screen, right? So I run that, and this is what I get, right? So just a black screen, and so now we want to add those different comments. Okay, so let's do the first one, initialize our variables. We're gonna come up here and say initialize variables, right? Maybe I could say local vars. And then what's gonna happen? Create our game objects. So that's gonna happen down here, right? So we'll create game objects. And I guess this play variable would be a local variable, so we can put it up there. And then we are going to create our groups. So we're down here, because you must create your game objects before you create your groups. So let's go ahead and create groups. And then we are going to update our groups and blit our groups. And the updating and the blitting happen inside of the game loop, right here. So right here, after I read in the keystrokes, is when I would want to run update on my groups. And then after I do that, then I will blit my groups. And I'm going to actually blit my groups right here after I clear the background, right? Let me just go ahead and replace this with blit groups, because the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the screen with black to erase what was previously written, and then I'm going to blit all of my sprites, right? Blit all my groups here, and then flip. So this is the general format, right? We're going to initialize our variables, create our game objects, our two ships, and some text objects we would need for the score. And I think in this game the pills are created dynamically in the game loop, so we're not going to create our pills here. We're going to create them down here. And then we're going to create our groups, put these game objects into the groups, and then come down here, run update on the group, split them, and we should have our game set up that way.